All right. So welcome to our 17th seminar in this series about thinking about the pandemic. Well, we started off, as I've mentioned before, thinking about the pandemic, but what we've moved on to as the year and the progress, or the year has progressed and the pandemic has progressed, we've moved on to the idea of actually living with this thing. And so quite a few of our seminars have been on different perspectives related to living with this pandemic. And this is what I hope Belinda is going to talk to us about. So let me introduce you to Belinda Munro, Intern Counselling Psychologist here at NMMU. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because we want to hear from her, not from me. So without further ado, welcome Belinda. And yes, I'm going to turn off and, welcome Belinda, but let me just say that we will be listening to Belinda for roughly about half the session, and then there will be a time for comments, questions, engagement, where we will open up the floor to everybody. The best way to do it is either to turn your video on, you know, give a kind of a wave, ask questions in the chat session. Those are the two ways that seem to be the easiest to kind of negotiate. We'll come back together and okay, we seem to potentially have lost Belinda. I hope not. Belinda?
I'm still here.
Oh, good.
Andrea?
Yeah. All right, excellent. Okay, I'm going to give the screen over to you, and thank you very much for joining us. Yes, and welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. It's good to be here today. Mindfulness is something that I have incorporated into my own life. I did the formal mindfulness training through Stellenbosch University in 2014 and 2015. It was actually a 2-year postgraduate training, but I have been practicing myself. I've been a student of mindfulness since 2008. So I can really say that it's quite exciting what the research is saying about mindfulness, but I can share that I've experienced it in my own life as well. So yeah, without further ado, let me continue. I'm currently a intern counselling psychologist at Mtongeni, Fountain of Student Wellness. And we've actually got an online mindfulness session, lunchtime session with my colleague Bianca. So we take turns. So every alternate Monday, I lead a mindfulness practice. There's not a lot of talking. There's a brief introduction, and then I do a mindfulness practice, and we have a little time of inquiry. So starting with the idea that attention is the doorway to compassion. And I'm just going to, there we go. This session is an invitation to experience a taste of mindfulness-based compassion through your way of being for the benefit of yourself and those who you come into close contact with. And at a time in our world which is fraught with unpredictability, uncertainty, distress, a mindfulness-based compassion approach may just be a healing balm. So this is going to be a slightly different session. It's not going to be all just cognitive talking. I'm going to further on guide you through a mindfulness practice. And it is an invitation. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, you're welcome to just listen. So what is mindfulness? Jon Kabat-Zinn, who developed mindfulness-based stress reduction, which I'll talk about a little bit later, his very well-known definition is awareness that arises through paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment to things as they are with non-judgmental attention. Then Bishop and colleagues proposed that mindfulness encompasses 2 components, and this is a very popular opinion of mindfulness. it is the regulation of attention and the adoption of a particular orientation towards one's experience. And that's what's exciting, what the research shows, is that it's a particular way of orientating to our present moment that makes the difference. The mindfulness has been associated theoretically with psychological well-being. The essence of mindfulness, namely awareness and non-judgmental acceptance of one's moment-to-moment experience, are considered to be powerful antidotes against psychological distress, which many of us have experienced during this lockdown period, such as anxiety, worry, fear, anger, and many of which involve maladaptive tendencies to either avoid, suppress, or over-engage with one's distressing thoughts and emotions. So non-judgmental attention doesn't mean that that you have to like what is noticed about present moment. There may actually be strong, intense feelings that are experienced as unpleasant or even painful. So mindfulness helps us cultivate an ability to observe our inner experiences. And what are our inner experiences? They're our feelings, our thoughts, our body sensations in relation to present moment. And mindfulness meditation has been found to help build the capacity to pause before reacting. So fostering a response. Research is clear.
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
How we pay attention, that is of vital importance. So shaming ourselves and others actually shuts down the learning center of the brain. So the prefrontal cortex, it's known as our wise CEO, executive functioning, it actually shuts that part of our brain down. Whilst a self-compassionate approach is actually supported by neuroscience to engage the learning center of the brain. And it's through kind attention. So the neuroscience also shows that it improves neuroplasticity. So that is the brain's ability to change in response to new experiences. And mindfulness practice helps the brain change and grow for the better. And I need to say that mindfulness isn't mindfulness without the practice of mindfulness. So often mindfulness is spoken about, and I'll have clients and participants on programs that I've run that will want to know, like, what book can I read? And what I will say to everybody is experience mindfulness. Go and do a mindfulness program. Today you're going to get an opportunity to have a little taste of a practice. So it's through both formal and informal practices. And at the heart of the practice is how we are in relationship with ourselves, our experiences, and others. And mindfulness has been shown to broaden our perspective and frame of reference, which facilitates growth in all areas of our life. So just to give a little bit of history related to mindfulness, it was originally promoted for many centuries as part of the Buddhist and other spiritual traditions. And the application of mindfulness to psychological health in the Western medical and mental health context is actually something that's more recent. And it was largely promoted by Jon Kabat-Zinn in the 1970s when he formulated a program called Mindfulness-based Stress Reduction. And this was implemented at the Massachusetts University in the United States. In South Africa, the first formal training in mindfulness-based interventions, which was based on MBSR, was through Stellenbosch University, which I mentioned earlier, was one of the guinea pigs on that program. And according to Jon Kabat-Zinn, there are actually over 720 mindfulness-based interventions throughout the world. And I'm sure there are actually more than that by now. So starting with that original 8-week program, and the mindfulness-based stress reduction program was initially developed for patients with chronic pain that weren't responding to all the normal medication and other ways of working with chronic pain. So that's considered the first wave of mindfulness. The second wave of mindfulness-based interventions began with mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which is also an 8-week program adapted from the MBSR model, and it is developed as an approach to prevent relapse in remitted depression. And it combines mindfulness training and elements of cognitive therapy. The third wave of mindfulness-based interventions can be seen in acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as dialectic behavioral therapy. And in 2019, the United Kingdom legislated mindfulness-based curriculum into schools to improve mental health amongst children. Here are just some of the benefits of mindfulness that research has been showing. So it results in a reduction in anxiety and depression. It improves emotional awareness and expression. It has a positive effect on autonomy, self-autonomy, and competency. It improves quality of sleep. It reduces tension and chronic pain. It improves immunity, improves attention and concentration, improves, it helps reduce addictive behaviors. It helps calm down the area of the brain, the amygdala, that detects danger and is overly active in those suffering from acute stress, PTSD, and emotional dysregulation. And I think PTSD, unfortunately, is on the rise with what we have currently experienced this year during lockdown. And mindfulness has also been shown to boost self-esteem, confidence, reduces experience of stress-related symptoms, improves creativity, and very helpful in reducing binge eating, self-harm, substance use, and aggressive behaviors. So linking compassion and mindfulness. So expanding on John Kabat-Zinn's classic definition of mindfulness, not only does it include non-judgmental awareness of the present moment, however, it includes a kind, curious, compassionate attitude towards one's experience. The compassion, starting with self-compassion, involves responding to difficult thoughts, feelings, body sensations, such as pain, with kindness and understanding so that we are able to soothe and comfort ourselves. And a researcher, Kristen Neff, she's known as a compassion researcher, has been working with the construct of self-compassion and mindfulness and has identified 3 elements of self-compassion and how they are related to mindfulness. So the first construct is self-kindness versus self-judgment. So self-compassion involves a warm understanding towards ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than ignoring our pain or berating it. Self-compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, and experiencing life difficulties is inevitable. So they tend to be gentle with themselves when they fail, suffer, fail, or feel as if they're not measuring up, rather than ignoring or berating themselves. It's a gentle way of being with oneself. When we fight against or deny reality, suffering actually increases. And in mindfulness, this is known as the second arrow. So if we use lockdown as an example, the actual event of lockdown would be the first arrow. But then the way we are with that difficulty would be the second arrow. And that second arrow of suffering in the form of stress, frustration, and self-criticism. When this reality is accepted with kindness and empathy, greater emotional equanimity is experienced. Then the second construct, common humanity versus isolation. So frustration is the feeling that arises when having what we want is often linked, of not having what we want is often linked with an irrational but overwhelming sense of isolation. Since we are all imperfect. The self-compassion recognizes that suffering is part of the shared human experience rather than something that just happens to me alone. And lockdown with the enforced isolation could possibly have very much triggered this. And then the third construct, mindfulness versus over-identification. So a self-compassionate approach includes a balanced approach towards negative or difficult emotions in order for feelings to neither be suppressed or exaggerated. Rather, there's an equanimity to whatever is noticed, a willingness to observe negative thoughts, emotions, body sensations with an openness. Mindfulness is a non-judgmental, receptive mind state, which allows for learning to observe thoughts and feelings as they are without trying to avoid or suppress. So we cannot ignore our pain and feel compassion at the same time. At the same time, mindfulness requires that we are not so overly identified with our thoughts and feelings. So what mindfulness does, or mindfulness practice does, is it actually helps us build the capacity to respond to difficulty in our life rather than just simply react. On that note, I'd like to invite you into a short, probably about 8 or 10 minutes, a mindfulness-based compassion practice, because this is really where you are going to get a taste of what mindfulness is all about. It's an invitation, so if this doesn't feel right for you today, you're welcome to just listen. I have meditation bowls with me. So I'm going to start and end the practice with the meditation bowls. And you're welcome to take up a posture that feels right for you. So you might like to stand. You may choose to remain seated if you are, or you may even choose to lie down. So whatever feels right for you. I'm also going to invite you to close your eyelids. Just let the eye line drop down with a soft gaze. If you're sitting, noticing contact between the feet and the ground, the bum bones and the chair, and the back against the chair. So taking your seat here now. And the invitation is to become aware of how you're arriving in this moment. It may have been a busy morning. There's a lot going on. You may even notice the heart rate has increased from rushing to get here. What is it like to just take your seat here now? And then becoming aware of the movement of the breath deep in the belly. So this isn't about trying to do breathing. This is an opportunity to rest in awareness of breath. You're alive, so breathing is happening. And noticing the movement of the breath in the tummy with a curious, kind, non-judgmental awareness. And just noting if it's true for you. On the breath in, there's a stretching, expanding of the abdominal wall. And on the breath out, there's a softening, a letting go, a letting be. And if that's not true for you, that's okay. And if you have a mind, you will notice the tendency to become distracted. Just notice where the mind tends to go. Maybe it's lost in a story, thinking about what happened this morning, jumping into the future, a worry, a concern. And so there's no need to judge the mind. It's the mind's job to think. But this is an opportunity with just kind, warm attention towards yourself, noting that tendency. And then gently, as one would guide a child, bringing attention back to the breath, deep in the belly now. Letting attention be with the full extent of the breath in and the full extent of the breath out. There may even be an awareness of the space and the breath out. Moment by moment, awareness of breath, however it may be now. And then the invitation is to become aware of the difficulty in your life right now. And maybe choosing something that is perceived as just mildly difficult. Maybe it would be wise to not choose something that is incredibly hard or painful. And it may be something related to your personality or character, something that you struggle with. It may be something related to a difficulty in relationship. It may be a difficulty related to life and the difficulties of this year. And see if you can notice where in the body this difficulty is held. Is it held in the chest? Maybe in the shoulders or the neck? Belly? And if there isn't an awareness of where it's held in the body, that's okay. And is it possible to notice this mild difficulty with the kindness towards yourself? That this is really hard. A warmth. And if there is an area in the body where there's awareness of where it's held, is it possible to just bring warm attention to that area? Not trying to fix anything. not avoiding or suppressing, just holding it here now with kind, compassionate attention. And if this feels right for you, there's a few phrases I'm going to repeat, which you may like to just in your mind say them to yourself. May I be safe. May I be at peace. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. May I be at ease. And allowing attention, just come back to the breath, deep in the belly. I'm going to repeat the phrases again. And if it feels right for you, just repeating them for yourself. May I be safe. May I be at peace. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. May I be at ease. Just holding whatever is here with kind, compassionate, non-judgmental attention. And then we're going to extend this kind, compassionate attention towards everybody that is online listening to this right now. So if this feels right for you, in your mind, the phrase is extending to everybody here. May we be safe. May we be at peace. May we be kind to ourselves. May we accept ourselves as we are. And may we be at ease. And alongside that, just extending the awareness of breath inside your own body to being aware that every single person here now is breathing. Moment by moment, awareness of breath. And we share this in common, the breath. And then extending this awareness of breath from everybody sitting here now to including it to everybody in the world. We share this commonality, the breath. Each person breathing. Each person desiring to be at peace, be at ease, be safe. And then just coming back these last few moments to the breath back inside the body, moving deep in the belly, a sense of expansion on the breath in, and a softening, soothing on the breath out. So coming home with the breath in the body now. So if the eyelids were closed, you may like to open them, rub the hands together, maybe give yourself a little stretch, change position or posture. If you were standing, you might want to come to sitting. You might like to take a purposeful breath in and out. And then this can be a time for us together to reflect on your experience. So what arose for you during this practice? How did you notice you tended towards difficulty or moments of suffering? What insight or learning would be helpful to take with you from this experience? How may a mindfulness-based compassion approach impact the experience of lockdown? Would anybody like to share?
Belinda, thank you. I'm not sure if I should have broken the moment of silence there.
I invited it. It's all good.
So what I would very much like to do is, I mean, I have lots and lots of things I want to kind of respond with, but I would like everyone to chat first. So if anyone has some comments or questions or things that they would like to share, please just, I think, switch your video on or use the hand waving function, or write something in the chat session. I think maybe we could begin there while people are gathering themselves together. I think it's very difficult to come back out of that experience to then start the academic chatter. I certainly am finding that. But
and that's a wonderful, Andrea, noticing. That's part of the practice, is the noticing that possibly difficulty in that transition between the practice and coming back to, as you said, cognitive, formal chatting.
The chatter, yes. Noise. Yes.
Yeah. I can't see the chat box. So can you let me know if there's anything?
Yes, I will do that. So if anybody wants to respond in the chat session, then I will respond to that, read it to Belinda, and she will chat there. Janine Sharrock says it was a very peaceful experience. Good, lucky you, Janine. I see Glenn is visible. Glenn, would you like to jump in there?
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you, Belinda. I really enjoyed that mindfulness experience, but I am also now intrigued with this idea of coming back to the real world, because it's such a wonderful, pleasant, quiet space to be in. In my talk last week, I was speaking about people who actually enjoy isolation or silence or being alone. So what type of techniques can you advise us to tap into so that the adjustment coming out of that deep, peaceful state is better facilitated, that it's not as jarring? Particularly, as you mentioned, people are struggling with PTSD as a result of lockdown. So there's this struggle to sort of feel that the lights have come back on in a dark room and I have to adjust. That's a metaphor I can use. Any advice from you on that? Transition. Thank you.
Transition. Thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate what you just brought up now. And from a mindfulness perspective, John Kabat-Zinn actually talks about everyday life as our practice. So there is no, in his opinion, there is no, yes, there's formal practice and there is informal practice, but there's not really this difference. The whole of our life is our experience. So saying that there's a difference between the practice and it being peaceful. So it may have been peaceful today. That may have been the experience today. There may be another time that you do a practice and it's actually incredibly difficult. And there's a huge amount of pain felt in the body. And that is just what the experience is today. So mindfulness actually helps us be with every single moment, however it is. So the noticing of pleasant and peaceful, what is so normal as human beings, is we want to hold on to that. We want to hold on to pleasant. And we want to push away what we perceive as unpleasant. And can that be the practice? Can that be the noticing? That I'm now wanting to keep the stillness. I often notice this on a course. We'll come out of a practice called the body scan, which is done lying down. So often people find it very relaxing and peaceful. And there's a tendency in the room for there to be quiet for quite a long time. People are not wanting to come back up to sitting. And it's wanting to savor that pleasant. And there's nothing wrong for wanting to savor the pleasant. That's actually really good to want to savor the pleasant. But that's the practice. It's just noticing that. Glenn, what I would say is just that concept of adjustment is really important. Part of the training I did at Stellenbosch University is we went on silent retreats, 7-day silent retreats. And we were advised that to be aware that the 7 days in silence and then going back to normal life, just seeing robots again, just getting to a robot, and there's a whole lot of cars and we have this constant stimulus. That's part of the practice, and to be kind to ourselves. And there's a huge amount of learning to be had and to notice how much stimulus we actually have on our life. I know for myself, when I've come out of those 7-day silent retreats, and I've come back into my normal life, it's actually brought about, I've made decisions regarding my life. And I've made decisions about how much stimulus am I actually wanting? And is that amount of stimulus right for me? So is that helpful, Glenn?
It definitely is. Thank you. I like the idea of enjoying both types of feelings, recognizing that you've got the peace in the silence and it's pleasurable, but being then mindful also of the transition or the adjustment to something different. So you've given me a lot to think about. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thanks, Belinda. I see from Brigitte Simon, she also said it was difficult at first to relax, that she felt uncomfortable at the beginning until she was able to focus on the exercise. And maybe that also speaks a little bit to this kind of, in a way, it's a little bit, to my mind, of a discrepancy that you kind of feel that this is something that you ought to do to relax and be peaceful, when in fact you're not really saying that. You're saying that well, the relaxing and peacefulness would be pretty nice, but it's not really. If you were mindful about your own being in the world, it's not going to be necessarily a relaxing and peaceful experience.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you for bringing that up. It's a really important point because it's a myth. And there's an expectation. So I often will say to people at the beginning of a course, a mindfulness program, what is your expectation? And, feeling good and relaxation is one of the expectations, and that's normal. We all want to feel good and we all want to relax and feel peaceful. However, that's not quite being true to mindfulness. Relaxation and a sense of peacefulness is often a byproduct. And yes, have I experienced more moments of peacefulness since practicing mindfulness in my life? Yes. But I've also woken up to difficulty in my life and moments of suffering that I was not aware of before. The difference is mindfulness helps me how to hold it, how to hold the suffering and the difficulty with the pleasant and the joyful and the peaceful, and not wanting to, there's a saying, let go attachment to what is not in the now. So it's being okay with the fact that the moments change. And this moment right now may be experienced as peaceful, and it changes. And there will be a moment of difficulty and suffering, and it changes.
Yes, okay, thank you. I see there's a question from Belinda here. I think actually just it would be easier for me if you do just pop something up on chat, and then because a lot of you are sort of off my screen somewhere, and then I have to keep scrolling up and down. So I think that would be the thing to do, and then I will read them to Belinda, and then if you want to come in, then just pop your screen on and unmute yourself and engage in a further conversation. So from Belinda, he says he practices a morning meditation as much as possible, trying to remain mindful. Of late, having gone through an upheaval, it's been difficult to maintain the routine. But I found that I had to stop resisting the difficulty and be there in the moment of it. So that's exactly what you're saying, be there in the moment of that difficulty.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful sharing. Thank you. And something shifts. I've just recently, for my research, done a 6-week program with adolescents, a mindfulness program with adolescents. And, just hearing the sharing that being with pain or being with difficulty, rather than the thinking about it and the why is it difficult and why is this painful and trying to fix it, the noting that simply just bringing kind presence and attention, it softened. Didn't go away, but it softened. Yeah.
Another question, well, kind of a sharing from, sorry, I should say, Belinda, would you like to respond? I can't see you on my screen, so you'd have to put yourself up and start talking.
Stop video. Thank you. Sorry, my voice is still recovering from a flu that I had. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I didn't really come on screen because you raised very poignant and very, very powerful sort of like moments of self-reflection in the sort of mindfulness process, because you sort of expose yourself to the fragility, and realizing that it's kind of, there's that Japanese art. I think that there's a lot of people use this example of like the idea of going through something that seems to shatter you, and you have to kind of build yourself back together again. And there's this beautiful Japanese art of kintsugi, which you use gold leaf and gold to put a cracked pot back together again. It's sometimes you just have to stare at the pieces, look at them and go like, okay, so how do I put this back together again? And I think that's the space I'm talking about, sort of reflecting on that. If just being aware that the vessel is no longer the operational vessel that you had before, but you can still put it back together again in some ways. So I think that's my only reflection, really. It's just, it took a lot to acknowledge, in some ways, difficulties, pain, and stuff like that. And you kind of, you go through that in a space of like beating yourself up and sort of saying, get right, get back to your routine. You know what's good for you. You know, get out there and jog and all the rest, and then, or be mindful of just peace. But then sometimes you just need to sort of sit on the couch and eat a lot of pizza, and that is a sort of an acceptance of the pain, sort of feeling and living, breathing, thinking about that, going back to that sort of basic I'm still breathing sort of feeling.
So may I ask you, how did that, it sounds like that radical acceptance, that awareness that you had, and that acceptance, how did that change the moment for you?
The moment of, how do you mean? Which moment?
The moments. The moments, the difficult experience. How did that change it for you?
Sure, I suppose the only way to answer that is to say you have to kind of like really crawl through, you have to crawl through the dark spaces. But you realize that you're not going to stay there. You have to kind of like really experience it, and you're experiencing and resisting the difficulties. But once you stop resisting, it's sort of like just, it comes in waves, and slowly the sort of tide goes out, if anything. I guess it changes by simply just acknowledging. And then you wake up one morning and you're a little stronger to do something else.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's answered the question.
Yeah, lovely. It's just reminding me, it's that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that almost like a new seeing.
Yes.
And and in that new seeing, it's quite empowering.
Yes, it is, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of growth, and a lot of different perspectives come to, it's like you become very much aware of other things and different things.
Yeah. So although sounds like there's been a lot of difficulty, it sounds like it's also been good.
Yes, I think so. I think so. Thank you. I don't want to turn this into my own therapy session. But
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Belinda. Glad to see you're up and about.
I am.
Excellent. Belinda, Sana, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, has a kind of reflection where she said that the exercise made her focus on the self, mind, and heart. And then she says, because I commanded that practice. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but maybe you can come up and explain it a little bit. But she says, then I became aware of my constant worries and everyday difficulties, and then not gaining strength to overcome them. And yet I used to overcome them. So I could locate the pain in my forehead, left side of my neck and chest. That's interesting. You know, I felt I could feel that pain around my eyes. So I think that was a very useful exercise to kind of, you know, where is this thing in your head? But then she says, but forest and chest alarm was significant. I think I need to be kind to myself and have moments of peace and relaxation. Yes, maybe. So Belinda, do you have a response to that? Or would you like, what is it, Rasana? I hope that's right. Would you like to come up and chat? Not sure if you're... Okay, maybe not. Belinda?
I think I'm just struck with the wonderful awareness. You know, there was a lot that was noticed. And that's mindfulness. That's the practice. And noticing difficulty and noticing discomfort and even pain, and a moment of having an insight of, I think I heard you say, I think I need to be kind to myself.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. So it's not about the practice being pleasant or not. It's about how we hold it.
Can I come in, please?
Yes, we can. I can see you, sort of hear you now. Could you?
The thing is, the lockdown itself had effect on all of us. Even though I like my space and being not lonely, but alone, so that I could listen to my mind and listen to what I want to do and what I have done. But I think lockdown, as well as changing ways of doing, had also a negative impact on how I do things and how I can do things. So that's why I said I forced the self when I was closing my eyes to listen to the body and the mind. And when you were saying, now let's focus on the mind, now let's focus on, on the body, then I could see where the pain was moving and where it is located firmly without moving or without changing the location. And at the same time, I felt, why is this the case? Because at some stage, when there were the things, the first things, I was in a different state. And then as you were giving us the instructions, I could realize that, oh, maybe I'm not listening to my body because my body speaks a lot to me. Right? Because of due dates, I always say, please, I need extra time. Please, I need extra time. And I'm sure that's why it was easy for me while I was closing my eyes to get a reminder where the pain is, because I always like to push the boundaries, even though the body says, please relax. This is the time for you to relax so that you can regain energy. So that's why I said, now I think I need to relax to regain energy and to regain mindfulness, because if I'm not mindful of the things I have to do, how to do them, I'll never be able to achieve them. And that's the situation right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you for that. It sounds like a lot was noticed, and it's actually given you insight into possibly doing things slightly differently to help you achieve what you would like to achieve. So it just shows once again that a kind approach actually works.
Belinda, there's a question from Melissa, sorry again, my pronunciation, but she wants to know whether mindfulness or what's the similarity between mindfulness and yoga?
Okay, good question. So I'll just use the word meditation because yoga falls into meditation. And yoga is actually part of mindfulness. So in a mindfulness program, we do mindful movement, or it can be called gentle yoga. So yoga or mindful movement is part of mindfulness practice, and it's simply about, so it's not about exercise. So the yoga that we do we call it gentle yoga, that we do in a mindfulness practice or mindfulness program, it's not about exercise. It's about bringing attention to body sensations in movement. So there's a difference. The other thing just to mention is there is a difference between mindfulness and meditation. They overlap as well. So meditation is something formal. It's usually done at a set time, and often it's about focusing on something. So it's about focusing on the breath, or it's focusing on a word or a mantra. Mindfulness involves informal and formal practice. You can be driving your car doing a mindfulness practice, aware of the sound of the car, aware of the wind on your face with the window open, making a cup of coffee, listening to the sound of the hot water as it goes into the cup, the smell of the coffee. So that's an informal practice. And mindfulness is not necessarily about clearing the mind. It's about noticing your experience. So does that help in what's different, the difference between mindfulness, meditation, and yoga? Please ask me more if you'd like to.
Okay, so questions come still in the chat session if you want to reflect on something. Otherwise, I'm going to throw a curveball at Belinda.
Yes.
So if you want to save her from that. So I'm giving you time to save Belinda.
Yes.
It's a kind of, okay, so it comes from a philosophical perspective and maybe a slightly critical perspective of the practice as a whole. And the thing that jarred for me was pretty much all of the questions that you asked us, or the things, those sentences that you asked us to say.
The phrases.
The phrases, yes.
Yeah.
I'm safe, I'm okay, I accept myself as I am. Is that a very culturally specific practice, a white practice in a country in which you do not want to accept yourself as you are, you don't want to accept things as they are? Is it the kind of practice that would actually dampen down resistance to the awful way that things are, the awful being that you are, etc.? So does it actually work against a kind of resistance to the status quo and work on keeping it together? So that would be a slightly curveball, but that was one of the things that jarred me, is that in this context, does this practice make any sense?
So Andrea, thank you for bringing that up. I think it's very relevant. And so it's so interesting how wording can make such an impact, because the wording is may I.
Yes. Okay, good. Yes.
So that changes things. And it's may I be safe. May I be at peace. So it's recognizing that it's we live in a world of suffering. And we live with that paradox. And I think what you're bringing up about our cultural and our South African perspective is very real. And it is very real where it's realistic that we don't feel safe. So, you know, that's not being irrational. That is a reality for many people. So it's that word may, that's why I repeated the whole phrase. And it wasn't may I be safe, at peace, kind to myself. I repeated the whole phrase from the beginning, may I. It's an orientation, it's an intention, but it's acknowledging that we live in a broken world that has suffering.
I'm assuming then for you that in some cases, the answer might be or must be, no, I may not. I may not accept myself the way I am. I may not be at peace in this situation. That would be the, you know, I may not accept who I am because it's not right. That would be my question. So.
So Andrea, absolutely. So can that also be something that is noticed? So remember, mindfulness is all about simply noticing whatever our experiences with non-judgment. So it's noticing that possibly those phrases don't feel right for me.
Yep.
And can that be okay? So you may have noticed I use specific wording. I invite participants into a practice. It is even somebody who signs up for a course and they're choosing to come on a mindfulness course. I use the wording before practices and invitation. And I'm also very specific with wording. So sometimes you'll hear generally in meditative circles, it's I now want you to do this. I now want you to do that. I don't use that wording. So from a mindfulness perspective, it's I invite you, and it's what feels right for you. So you may have noticed earlier, I spoke about the fact that I was going to invite you into a practice. However, if it didn't feel right for you today, you're welcome to just listen.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'm afraid I have taken up the last few moments of your time.
Oh, good.
I apologize for taking advantage of my, position as host to do that. Normally I try not to, but we have run out of time, and I know that there's lots and lots and lots more questions that we could be speaking about this all day. We can't, but thank you very, very much for joining us, and thank you everybody for participating and listening, and hopefully going through that quite shocking in a way, even though it was such a short exercise. It was a really kind of yes, it triggered a lot of interesting thoughts on my part, and people are asking, maybe we should just end up with this for your contact details. It looks like there are lots of people that would love to chat to you. Would you be willing to share those, or shall I send them out?
Andrea, you're welcome to give my work email.
Okay.
So I think it's munro.belinda@mandalaac.za.
Okay, are you not Belinda Munro?
My work email. Yeah, you're welcome to put that on the chat.
Okay, great. So the only question I'd ask you is it not Belinda Munro rather than Munro Belinda? Because
yes, so
yeah.
Yes, the university. Yes.
Okay, well then
sorry, I haven't been with the university for long.
Okay, so your normal university address, it's belinda.munro at
yes.
Mandala.
I may not be able to respond immediately, but people are welcome to email me.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, I think, thank you very much. Perhaps I should invite everyone to our normal process now that we don't need to worry too much about bandwidth, of just putting on your video so we can see your faces for a second or two as you kind of wave and
yes, that'll be lovely.
Off screen. Hi, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Belinda, thank you. And unfortunately, I can't see people too well because I have this. There we go. Tabang, hello, nice to see you. Sharon, Rochelle, nice to see you. Who am I looking at? Galaxy Pro. Hi. Oh, Sheila. Janine. So yes, thank you very much, and goodbye. Yes, we'll see you next week. Bye. All right. Thanks, Belinda.
May everyone be well.
Yes.
Thank you, colleagues. Bye.
Thank you, Belinda. You too. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, colleagues.
Ethan. Okay. Cheers.
Bye.